Welcome to today's deep dive. We're exploring something incredibly powerful, but maybe often overlooked when it comes to financial success and even just general well-being. And that's our mindset. Have you ever found yourself wondering why some people, they just seem to attract wealth almost effortlessly, while others, they work incredibly hard but still struggle?
Yeah, it's a common question.
Or even folks with decent incomes who are just perpetually stressed about money? Well, the answer, so often, it isn't just about the number in the bank account. It's about their financial mindset.
Exactly.
Those deeply ingrained beliefs, attitudes, thought patterns, all around money and success. This deep dive is brought to you by Shares24x7.com Learning Community, your free go-to resource for empowering financial knowledge.
That's exactly right. Think of your financial mindset as your internal operating system for money.
Okay.
It's all those deeply embedded beliefs, your attitudes, assumptions about wealth, spending, saving, managing finances, you name it.
And it's subconscious, right?
Right.
Mostly.
Often, yeah. It operates beneath the surface, but it's profoundly influencing your daily decisions, your long-term behaviors, and ultimately where you end up financially.
Yeah.
And what's really profound is how self-perpetuating this whole cycle is. It's not just the big choices. It's the subtle, almost invisible daily feedback loop.
Like what?
Well, maybe a small fear about money leads to a minor impulse buy for comfort, right?
Yeah.
Which then just reinforces that original fear. It silently shapes your entire financial reality, often without you even realizing it.
So financial stress isn't just stress. It impacts your thinking.
Absolutely. It hits your mental health, makes it even harder to manage finances effectively.
Right.
It becomes this vicious cycle.
So, okay, if that's the case, we always hear financial education is the key.
Right.
But if that's true, why do so many smart, educated people still struggle with money? Is knowing the facts, is financial literacy really enough on its own?
That is such a fantastic point, and that's exactly where behavioral economics comes in. It shows us that humans are often, well, predictably irrational with money.
Right. Predictably irrational. I like that.
Yeah, we're wired, to want instant gratification, or we fear losing money way more than we value potentially gaining the same amount. Loss aversion.
Right.
Think about it. Financial self-sabotage. It's usually not a logical choice, is it? It often stems from these really deep-rooted past experiences and, crucially, limiting beliefs.
Those stories we tell ourselves.
Exactly. Those unconscious narratives like, oh, I'm just not good with money, or wealth is only for lucky people. And those narratives then dictate our choices.
So knowledge isn't enough.
Not on its own, no. Truly sustainable financial elevation, it really needs a holistic approach. You've got to integrate the practical knowledge, the how-to, with psychological tools to actually shift those core mindsets and, importantly, regulate the emotions tied to money.
I can see that. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because even for people with a lot of money, right, the temptation to make emotionally driven decisions must be huge. It really underlines how universal this is. Everyone needs a healthy financial mindset.
Precisely. It's about building that emotional and psychological resilience right alongside accumulating the financial know-how.
Okay, so our mission today in this deep dive is threefold. First, we want to clearly define and differentiate what we're broadly calling the poor, middle income, and rich mindsets. And let's be super clear right up front. This is not about judging income levels.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the internal thinking patterns that often lead to certain financial realities.
That distinction is critical.
Second, we're going to dig into the psychological and sociological factors that shape these mindsets. Why do we think the way we do about money?
Or roots.
Exactly. And third, and maybe most importantly, we want to give you actionable strategies, tools, practical remedies to help you elevate your own financial mindset, overcome those limiting beliefs, and really step onto a path of greater abundance and financial empowerment. So where do we start unpacking these powerful internal frameworks? For many, the journey really begins in understanding what we've called the poor mindset. And again, it's critical here. This isn't about demonizing anyone who's struggling financially, not at all. It's about identifying a set of these deeply ingrained beliefs and thought patterns that often contribute to, or frankly, perpetuate financial hardship, sometimes regardless of current income.
That's key. It's the pattern, not the person's bank balance necessarily.
So what are the defining characteristics? What really sets this thinking pattern apart?
Well, at its core, you usually find this pervasive sense of scarcity and often victimhood.
Scarcity and victimhood.
Yeah. There's this ingrained belief that resources are just inherently limited, almost like a fixed pie mentality, There isn't enough to go around.
If someone else gets something, I lose out.
Kind of, yeah. And crucially, there's often a belief that your financial situation is largely beyond your control. So you blame external factors, luck, circumstances, other people.
Okay.
You'll hear things like money is finite or there's just not enough. And this feeds that victim mentality, blaming the economy, the government, the rich. There can also be beliefs like money is evil or wanting more is greedy, which, creates this real internal conflict.
Right, like you shouldn't want it anyway.
Exactly. And often beneath that, there's a subconscious feeling of unworthiness, a belief that deep down, you shouldn't really be adequately rewarded for your efforts.
Wow. That fixed pie thinking,
Oh,
blaming outside forces, that sounds like a recipe for financial decisions that are almost entirely driven by fear, when you say
oh, absolutely.
fear of not having enough, fear of losing what you have, fear of failing. It just paralyzes action.
Totally. People operating from this mindset, they tend to be very obstacle focused. They dwell on the problems, the risks, much more than any potential rewards.
Right.
And because the pressure of immediate needs is often so high, there's a very strong short-term focus. Planning is usually limited to, paycheck to paycheck. Long-term goals just seem irrelevant or maybe even impossible.
That makes me wonder then, what's the actual psychological impact of living in that kind of scarcity? What does that do to someone's ability to even think clearly about money decisions?
That's such a critical question. Researchers actually call it the bandwidth tax of poverty.
Bandwidth tax.
Yeah, the immediate demands, the constant stresses, they literally consume your cognitive resources, your brain's bandwidth. And that impedes decision-making.
So you can't think straight, basically.
It makes it much harder. This cognitive strain, it often leads to a higher rate of what's called time discounting,
Time discounting.
meaning you're wired to prioritize a smaller gain right now over a potentially much larger gain down the road.
Oh, okay.
Think of it like this. If you're under immense pressure, $100 today feels infinitely more valuable than maybe $500 next year, even though logically, $500 is more.
It's a survival instinct kicking in.
Exactly. But it hinders that crucial long-term planning.
And I imagine this bandwidth tax, this short-term focus, it must show up very clearly in people's everyday financial habits. What kind of patterns do you typically see?
Yeah, you got it. You start to see patterns like financial denial.
Ignoring the bills?
Yeah, ignoring debt statements, not looking at savings balances, kind of hoping the problem will just disappear, to avoid the guilt or stress.
Mm-hmm.
There's also often a lot of emotional spending, driven by stress, sadness, sometimes peer pressure, leading to impulse purchases that quickly cause more financial strain.
The quick dopamine hit that costs you later.
Precisely. A lack of financial education is common too, which just contributes to poor decisions. Generally, you see high consumption, low investment.
Okay.
And debt is often used for consumption, sometimes just to maintain an illusion of keeping up or having things okay.
So it creates a cycle.
Exactly. Overall, these habits and beliefs, they create this powerful, self-fulfilling prophecy, perpetually reinforcing that cycle of scarcity.
Okay, so if the poor mindset is often this sort of reactive dance with scarcity, what happens when people start to gain a little more financial ground? We then move into what we're calling the middle income mindset, which sounds like a space where maybe aspirations start to meet some persistent challenges. How do we start to differentiate this group? It seems like it could be quite diverse.
It is very diverse. It's a really nuanced category because it's often a blend, right? A blend of some leftover scarcity thinking maybe and emerging aspiration.
Okay.
We can often differentiate between what we might call a typical middle income mindset, which maybe inadvertently perpetuates certain financial struggles, and an aspirational middle income mindset, which is actively working towards wealth creation.
All right, let's unpack the typical middle income mindset first. Yeah. What are the core beliefs, the desires that tend to drive this group?
Well, the typical characteristics often reveal a really strong desire for security, stability.
Safety first.
Yeah, very security-oriented. There's often a significant emphasis on conformity, too, social acceptance. The classic keeping up with the Joneses.
Right. Got to fit in.
Exactly. And there can sometimes be a good enough mentality, even if good enough means living paycheck to paycheck.
Okay.
Money, in this view, is often seen primarily as a direct result of your labor, your time, rather than seeing it as a tool that can, work for you and generate more money.
And how does that play out in their perception of money itself and maybe the opportunities out there?
Well, you often see significant risk aversion.
Playing it safe.
Very much so. This often leads them to avoid investments that seem volatile even if they have higher growth potential. They prefer the comfort zone.
Which means missing opportunities.
Unfortunately, yeah. Overlooking new opportunities because they feel risky or unfamiliar. They might focus on accumulation, like diligently contributing to a 401k, which is good, but not necessarily active growth. Not thinking about leveraging compounding interest to its fullest potential, maybe by diversifying into different asset classes.
And the insidious part, I think, with some of these habits, it's not usually about one massive splurge, right? It's often the cumulative effect of those seeming like small, inconsequential lifestyle expenses.
Oh, absolutely.
That daily coffee, the subscription you forgot about,
Yeah.
our brains just rationalize them away, but they create this silent drain that adds up massively over time.
Yeah.
What other habits are common here?
You nailed it. You'll often see inconsistent budgeting or totally ignoring those small lifestyle expenses that really do add up. Savings are often delayed or inconsistent, maybe not having a sufficient emergency fund.
Living on the edge a bit.
Yeah. Irresponsible credit use is common too, like revolving debt, carrying balances month to month, often just to fund that lifestyle. They might neglect proactive financial education. Maybe they think they know enough or it feels overwhelming. And often they end up living paycheck to paycheck simply because of lifestyle creep. As income goes up, spending goes up right along with it. There can also be sometimes an obsession with image. Overcompensating with luxury brands maybe, prioritizing that perceived status over actual financial stability, which can then lead to debt denial, avoiding financial discussions altogether because it's uncomfortable.
Here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Within that broad middle-income group, there's this aspirational segment you mentioned.
Yes.
These aren't just people hoping for wealth. It sounds like they're actively adopting the habits and maybe the mindset of the truly abundant. Almost like they're, I don't know, prototyping their future selves.
Huh.
What are some of those key characteristics we see emerging in this transitional group?
That's a great way to put it, prototyping. You see individuals demonstrating consistency and persistence. They view setbacks not as, oh, I failed, but as learning opportunities.
Resilience.
Huge resilience. There's a strong commitment to lifelong learning. They regularly invest, even if it's small amounts, to leverage compounding interest. They make a conscious effort to live below their means to create that surplus. They tend to embrace change, think more independently, not just follow the crowd, and they actively cultivate a positive mindset, self-belief, resilience, practicing gratitude.
Interesting.
They also often prioritize physical and mental health, seeing the connection to financial well-being, and they start viewing wealth not just for personal gain, but as a tool for positive impact.
So the middle-income mindset is really like it's at a crossroads.
Exactly. It's heavily influenced by societal pressures pulling in different directions, but it's absolutely ripe for significant elevation if the focus shifts.
Okay, finally, let's explore what we're calling the rich, or perhaps better, the abundance mindset. And again, this isn't just about having a lot of money, right? It's about a profound internal belief system, a way of thinking that actually fosters growth, opportunity, and ultimately financial freedom.
Precisely.
This mindset isn't exclusive to people who are already wealthy. It's often the way of thinking people cultivate to become wealthy and then to sustain that wealth. So what's really at the core of this way of thinking?
At its absolute core, the rich or abundance mindset is characterized by being proactive, growth-oriented, and focused on value creation.
Value creation, okay.
Yeah, underpinned by this deep belief in abundance, that there's enough out there and a very long-term perspective. There's no feeling of being done. Life is seen as this continuous series of challenges and learning opportunities.
Always growing.
Always. You'll find that abundance mentality, wealth is expandable, there's enough for everyone. They take full personal responsibility for their financial results. No blaming.
Ownership.
Total ownership. Money is viewed purely as a tool, a resource for creating value, finding solutions, investing, gaining freedom, security, creating opportunities, making a positive impact. It's not the end goal itself, and it's not a primary source of stress. They consciously work to separate their identity from their net worth, and there's this strong, unwavering commitment to continuous learning and growth.
It's really striking how different their perception of money and opportunities must be coming from that foundation.
It really is. They are fundamentally opportunity-focused, constantly scanning the environment for solutions, for advantages. You could call them optimistic realists.
Optimistic realists, I like that.
Yeah. They engage in calculated risk-taking. They assess the risks, they mitigate them, and then they act, even if there's fear involved. They clearly differentiate these calculated risks from just blind gambles.
Okay.
Their vision is inherently long-term, planning decades ahead, thinking about compounding legacy. They're very careful to avoid emotional decision-making, especially during market turbulence.
Staying the course.
Exactly. And they tend to embrace challenges. They see problems not as dead ends, but as opportunities for growth, for innovation.
Yeah.
They're always solution-oriented.
That makes complete sense. So, given those core beliefs and perceptions, what specific habits do they embody that truly set them apart in practice?
Well, you see excellent money management habits, meticulous tracking, strategic allocation of funds for investment, for saving, for responsible spending.
Very intentional.
Very intentional. They consistently invest for growth, typically in appreciating assets like stocks, real estate, maybe businesses. They always prioritize investment over consumption. Their aim is for their money to work for them, generating passive income streams to eventually cover expenses and achieve true financial freedom.
Okay.
They strategically use debt, what we call good debt, maybe to acquire income-generating assets or expand a business. They clearly distinguish that from bad debt used for consumption.
Leverage.
Strategic leverage, yes. Their spending is often value-driven. They might enjoy luxuries, but it's conscious, aligned with their values, and they often live below their means to free up capital for investment.
Right.
They actively pursue financial knowledge reading, podcasts, seminars, hiring coaches, staying informed. They build strong networks, seek mentorship, and they often practice generosity. Giving back is seen as a natural byproduct of contributing value, and it actually reinforces their own belief in allegiance.
So the overall impact is just this proactive, empowered approach to their financial life. And the key takeaway here seems to be that this approach, this mindset, it's truly cultivable by anyone, regardless of where they're starting from.
Absolutely. It's a learned skill set and mindset.
Okay, now that we've sort of painted a picture of these distinct mindsets, let's explicitly highlight the key areas where they really diverge. Because understanding these differences is so crucial, right? They directly translate into the choices we make and the financial realities we end up experiencing. Let's compare them across, say, 5 critical aspects: financial habits, risk tolerance, long-term planning, attitude towards learning, and views on debt.
Great idea. So starting with financial habits and management. The poor mindset, as we discussed, typically involves mismanagement, maybe impulsive spending, a lack of budgeting, and the focus is really just on getting money, surviving. The middle income mindset often shows basic or maybe inconsistent budgeting. They can fall victim to that lifestyle creep. They might focus on specific goals like buying a house, but not necessarily on building passive income streams.
Okay.
And then, in stark contrast, the rich mindset is characterized by meticulous management, strategic allocation of funds, significant investment, and really focusing on making money work for them.
And what about their approach to risk? Risk
Yes.
tolerance and how they perceive opportunities.
Big difference here. The poor mindset is typically highly risk-averse, often paralyzed by the fear of loss, and tends to be very obstacle-focused.
Leaving the problems first.
Exactly. The middle-income mindset is more cautious. They prefer security, stability, and often shy away from more dynamic, maybe volatile investments. But the rich mindset embraces calculated risk-taking. They're adept at seeing opportunities where others see problems, and they're always solution-oriented. It's also fascinating how this plays out in their time horizon, their planning window. The poor mindset is predominantly short-term, almost entirely driven by immediate needs. Long-term planning can feel almost irrelevant or impossible under that pressure.
Just get them through the week.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The middle-income mindset often engages in medium-term planning.
Yeah.
Saving for a house down payment, kids' education, retirement eventually, but it can be inconsistent.
Okay.
The rich mindset, however, often has an extreme long-term vision, thinking in terms of decades, sometimes generations, legacy. They truly grasp and leverage the power of compounding over long stretches of time.
And it's really remarkable how the attitude towards learning transforms across these mindsets, isn't it? From maybe seeing it as a burden to seeing it as a fundamental investment. How does that insatiable appetite for knowledge really set the abundance mindset apart?
Yeah, it's a huge differentiator. For the poor mindset, learning about finance often feels overwhelming, maybe unnecessary. There can be resistance to new information, sometimes born from past negative experiences.
Right.
The middle income mindset is generally open to learning, but it tends to be more reactive. Maybe they'll read an article if it pops up, but it's not usually a continuous proactive pursuit,
Not seeking it out actively.
not consistently. The rich mindset, on the other hand, typically has this almost insatiable appetite for continuous learning. They view knowledge itself as an ongoing investment in their future success. They actively seek it out.
And finally, let's touch on their views on debt and leverage. That seems like a really fundamental difference, too.
Absolutely. It's a night and day difference sometimes. For the poor mindset, debt often feels like a burden, a trap. Yet, paradoxically, they might incur consumer debt just to keep up appearances or meet immediate needs.
Probably.
The middle income mindset often sees debt as a necessary evil, for large purchases like a car or a house. But they frequently struggle with managing consumer debt, credit cards, that sort of thing. The rich mindset, however, learns to view debt strategically as a tool, as leverage, specifically using good debt to acquire income-generating assets or expand a business while actively avoiding or minimizing bad debt.
Making debt work for them, not against them.
Exactly. So these key distinctions, time horizon, risk perception, how they view problems, self-promotion versus humility, their core relationship with money, their deepest beliefs, they are absolutely fundamental to understanding the varying paths people take towards different financial outcomes.
So the big question that is, where do these different mindsets actually come from? Why does one person develop a scarcity mindset while someone else maybe naturally leans towards abundance, even if they grew up in similar circumstances? It sounds complex.
It is complex. The answer is rooted in this fascinating interplay between psychological factors and sociological factors that shape our earliest beliefs about money and continue to influence us throughout life.
Okay, let's start with the psychological side.
All right. From a psychological standpoint, one really powerful concept is the scarcity hypothesis.
We touched on this with the bandwidth test.
Exactly. Experiencing scarcity, whether it's of time or money, literally impairs your cognitive function. It reduces your capacity for long-term planning, for impulse control, for rational decision-making, because your brain is just consumed by the immediate lack.
Got it.
Beyond scarcity itself, our brains are just hardwired with various cognitive biases that affect money decisions.
Like what?
Well, take loss aversion, for instance. We mentioned it briefly. The pain of losing, say, $100 feels roughly twice as strong psychologically as the pleasure of gaining $100.
Wow, twice as strong.
Yeah. So this can make us irrationally cling to a losing investment just to avoid the pain of admitting defeat and realizing that loss.
Right.
Then there's confirmation bias. We actively seek out information that confirms what we already believe about money or about our own abilities, reinforcing our existing financial narratives, whether they're helpful or not.
We filter out conflicting information.
Pretty much. And mental accounting, this is interesting. It means we treat money differently depending on where it came from or what we intend to use it for. Like, you might splurge with a bonus in a way you'd never dream of doing with your regular paycheck, even though it's all just money.
And it's also deeply tied to our emotional factors, isn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like our feelings about money can just completely override logic sometimes.
They absolutely can, and frequently do. You might have strong emotional attachments to certain investments, maybe something inherited, or even possessions, making it incredibly hard to sell, even if logically it's the right financial move.
Right.
Emotional spending is huge, driven by stress, sadness, boredom, a desire for immediate relief, leading straight to impulse buys.
Retail therapy.
Exactly. And who hasn't felt FOMO, fear of missing out? That can push hasty financial decisions, like jumping on a hot stock tip without research or overspending on experiences just to keep up appearances online. Or just general emotional dysregulation when feeling overwhelmed. Spending can become a maladaptive coping mechanism for immediate comfort. What's really eye-opening is how interconnected these are. Emotional spending might be fueled by FOMO, which is amplified by social comparison, leading to financial strain, maybe debt denial.
Right.
It creates this tangled web.
That really makes me wonder how much of this deep programming, these emotional triggers, how much of it actually happens when we're young? Are our childhood experiences truly foundational to our lifelong financial mindset?
Oh, Profoundly influential. Childhood experiences and upbringing shape our earliest, most fundamental beliefs about money.
How so?
Parental habits, for one, how they managed money, how they talked about it or didn't talk about it. Even their unspoken anxieties about money, those filter down to us, consciously or unconsciously.
Right.
Then there are the instilled limiting beliefs, those phrases we heard over and over, like money doesn't grow on trees, or maybe rich people are greedy. These can become deeply ingrained narratives that lead to self-sabotage later in life without us even realizing the connection. Wow.
And financial trauma, maybe experiencing poverty as a child, or a sudden significant family loss that can create deep-seated fears or anxieties that manifest as unconscious self-sabotaging behaviors in adulthood. Like a fear of success, because success feels unfamiliar or dangerous, or a fear of repeating past failures.
So that's the individual psychology. But beyond that, broader sociological factors must play a huge role, too. Things like, the pressure to fit in, that keeping up with the Joneses you mentioned, which feels like it's amplified endlessly by social media today.
Oh, massively amplified. Family and peer influence exert immense pressure to conform financially, to have the right car, the right house, the right vacations.
Yeah,
Then there's your cultural background and societal norms. Different cultures have vastly different attitudes towards money, savings, debt, risk, displaying wealth.
that makes sense.
And let's not forget the power of media and advertising. They are constantly promoting specific norms, expectations, desired lifestyles. It makes media literacy and, frankly, digital self-regulation crucial modern skills for protecting our financial well-being. Got to be mindful of the messages we're consuming.
Absolutely. Even things like herding behavior. Just following the crowd in investment decisions or spending trends that can lead to really irrational choices that go against our own best interest just because everyone else is doing it.
And layered on top of all that, of course, is socioeconomic status itself, which impacts access to resources, education, opportunities, further shaping mindsets in a kind of feedback loop. I can really see how just becoming aware of these roots, the psychological, the sociological, is truly the essential first step if you want to consciously reprogram your financial mindset.
Awareness is absolutely the foundation for change. You can't change what you don't recognize.
Okay, so now let's really connect the dots. We've talked about these different mindsets, where they come from. How do they actually play out in our daily lives? How do they ultimately determine our life outcomes? It feels like the link must be pretty direct and profound.
It is absolutely direct. When we talk about the influence on financial decisions, it's stark. A scarcity mindset, for instance, fearing loss, might keep all their money in super low-interest savings accounts, completely missing out on potential growth.
So you're too safe.
Exactly. An abundance mindset, conversely, understands calculated risk and will diversify investments strategically, aiming for maximum long-term growth.
Right.
Spending habits also vary dramatically. You might see impulse buying for that immediate emotional relief in a poor mindset. You might see that insidious lifestyle creep in the typical middle-income mindset. Versus the rich mindset, which often practices strategic, below means living specifically to create capital for investment.
Big difference.
Huge. Debt management, too. From potentially getting caught in cycles of high-interest consumer debt to seeing consumer debt as normal but maybe manageable to strategically leveraging good debt for assets. And of course, savings rates, how much you consistently put aside, diverge dramatically across these mindsets, directly impacting future security and freedom.
And I imagine there's a significant impact that ripples out into career choices and maybe business endeavors as well.
Oh, absolutely. Someone with a scarcity mindset might stick to a low-paying but perceived secure job, fearing the risk of change, believing deep down there aren't better opportunities anyway.
Staying stuck.
Often. But an abundance mindset might confidently pursue new ventures, negotiate harder for higher salaries, or take calculated risks in their career path because they fundamentally see problems as puzzles to be solved, not dead ends. This fuels innovation, problem solving, and often wealth creation.
And networking.
Big difference there, too. A scarcity mindset might view peers or colleagues as competition, that fixed pie again, while an abundance mindset tends to embrace collaboration and collective intelligence, knowing that shared knowledge and opportunities actually create more abundance for everyone involved.
That makes complete sense. And what about just our personal well-being, our stress levels, our relationships? How do these financial mindsets affect those really intimate parts of our lives?
The impact is huge. Chronic stress and anxiety about money are incredibly common with a scarcity mindset. It can lead to sleepless nights, health problems, significant relationship strain.
Money fights.
Exactly. Now, while no one's immune to financial stress, the rich or abundance mindset often experiences significantly less debilitating financial anxiety because they have a greater sense of control, foresight, and contingency planning.
Okay.
In relationships, differing financial mindsets can be a major source of conflict and misunderstanding. But when partners share an abundance mindset, it often fosters collaboration, shared goals, and mutual support.
Working together.
Right. And ultimately, that sense of financial security and control, which is characteristic of an abundance mindset, really does contribute significantly to a deeper sense of overall well-being, life satisfaction, and happiness.
So what this all really hammers home is that your mindset, it isn't just some abstract way of thinking. It's literally the blueprint for your financial reality and even your personal reality. By understanding its impact, we gain the power to consciously redraw that blueprint.
That's the empowering part. It can be redrawn.
And that's the really good news here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mindsets are not fixed. They're not set in stone. They are learned, which means they can be unlearned and, crucially, reprogrammed.
Absolutely.
So the journey from maybe a scarcity mindset or that typical middle income pattern towards one of genuine abundance, it's definitely a transformative one. It requires intentional effort, requires self-awareness and consistent practice. So what are the core principles? What truly underpins an abundance mindset?
Okay, at its core, an abundance mindset rests on a few key principles. First, a deep belief in limitless possibilities. The idea that wealth, opportunities, success, they aren't finite resources to be hoarded, but they're expansive.
Not a zero-sum game.
Exactly. Second, it champions personal agency and responsibility, recognizing that you are the primary architect of your financial destiny, not just a victim of circumstances.
Ownership again.
Yes. Third, this mindset shifts the focus fundamentally to value creation. Moving away from just thinking about getting money to actively thinking about how you can create value for others, knowing that money often follows value.
Service leads to reward.
Often, yes. Fourth, it embraces a growth orientation. Seeing challenges not as roadblocks or failures, but as essential learning opportunities on the path forward. And perhaps one of the most counterintuitive or surprising elements for some is that generosity and contribution are also core principles. Giving back, whether time or money, actually signals and reinforces an internal belief of having enough to spare, which paradoxically strengthens the abundance mindset.
That shift from getting to creating value feels really powerful. So, okay, how do we start to actually implement these principles? How do we actively begin to shift our perspective day to day?
Well, a great place to start is by practicing gratitude, consciously, daily, focusing on what you do possess, materially and non-materially, rather than dwelling on what's lacking. It primes your brain to see abundance. Then, actively work to reframe limiting beliefs. When you catch yourself thinking, say, money is hard to earn, consciously challenge that and replace it with an empowering affirmation like, I easily attract wealth through providing value.
Talk back to the negative thought.
Exactly. Consciously focus on what you want to create financially. Vividly visualize financial freedom, specific goals achieved, feel the emotions of having achieved them. Also, make a point to celebrate others' success. See it as inspiration, as proof that what you desire is possible, rather than feeling envious or seeing it as a threat.
Shift from comparison to inspiration.
Precisely. And redefine success and value for yourself. Look beyond just monetary wealth to include things like health, strong relationships, purpose, freedom, a richer definition of a rich life. And always try to cultivate a win-win mentality in your dealings, believing that solutions exist where everyone can benefit.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about changing the internal narrative first.
Right.
And then how do we move from just shifting that perspective to truly embracing growth and opportunity in a more practical sense? What actions can we take?
Great question. First, commit to lifelong learning. Actively invest time and maybe some money in your financial education books, podcasts like this one, courses, seminars.
Keep learning.
Always. Second, seek mentorship and strategically surround yourself with what you might call your abundance tribe. Spend time with people who already embody the mindset and financial habits you aspire to. You'll naturally start to absorb their positive outlook and strategies.
Environment matters.
Hugely. Third, consciously embrace discomfort and calculated risk. Understand that real growth always happens outside your comfort zone. Be willing to try new financial strategies, even if they feel a bit scary at first.
Lean into the discomfort.
Yes. Fourth, regularly visualize your future self, having already achieved your goals. Make it vivid. Feel the emotions associated with that success. This helps program your subconscious mind for achievement. And finally, consistently use positive affirmations and engage in positive self-talk. Counteract the negative internal chatter with deliberate, empowering statements about your capabilities and potential.
This sounds like cultivating an abundance mindset is really an ongoing process, isn't it? Not just a one-time fix. It's about consistently choosing those empowering thoughts and behaviors over the old limiting ones.
Exactly. It's a practice, like any other skill.
Okay, so the next step is crucial, getting really practical. What are the concrete tools and techniques people can use to really aid them in this transformation?
Right, because shifting your mindset isn't just about, thinking positively and hoping for the best. It's about integrating new behaviors and using practical tools consistently in your daily life. Let's dive into some actionable remedies and techniques that can help you really solidify that abundance mindset and dramatically improve your financial outlook. Okay, absolutely. So, for building that crucial self-reflection and awareness, financial journaling is incredibly powerful.
Writing things down.
Yeah, regularly writing down your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors around money. It helps you uncover those subconscious patterns, fears, and limiting beliefs that might be holding you back.
Okay.
You can also conduct regular, maybe even daily, mindset audits. Just pause and assess, what are my dominant thoughts and conversations about money right now? Are they scarcity-based or abundance-based?
Checking in with yourself.
Exactly. And consistently engage in those visualization exercises we mentioned, vividly imagining your financial goals is already achieved, feeling the success.
And what about actively restructuring those negative thought patterns? How do we do that?
Well, daily affirmations can be very effective. Consistently repeating positive statements about yourself and money like, I'm worthy of wealth, or I'm a money magnet, choose ones that resonate.
Saying them out loud.
Can help, yes, or writing them. Also, when those negative what-if thoughts pop up, what if I lose my job? Immediately counter them with a positive what-if reversal. What if I get a promotion? What if my investments do really well?
Flip the script.
Exactly. And consistently practice gratitude, as we said. Listing things you're thankful for actively reprograms your brain to seek out and recognize the abundance already present in your life. And underpinning all of this is financial literacy and ongoing education. It's just non-negotiable.
Get no basics.
And beyond. Read foundational books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Psychology of Money. There are so many great ones. Listen to reputable financial podcasts, take online courses, or attend seminars if you can. Follow trusted, ethical financial experts online to stay informed and inspired. Knowledge builds confidence and reduces fear.
Okay, and for translating mindset into action, what about goal setting and planning strategies?
Crucial. Set smart financial goals. That means specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Vague goals like get rich aren't helpful. Save $500 per month for a down payment starting next month. That's smart.
Clarity.
Yes. Creating a financial vision board can also be powerful. A visual representation of your goals to keep your aspirations front and center. And schedule regular money dates, maybe weekly or monthly with yourself or your partner, just to review your budget, track progress towards goals, and make adjustments. Turn financial management into a consistent, non-negotiable habit. Then come the behavioral changes, the real heavy lifting sometimes.
Doing the work.
Exactly. First, automate your savings and investments. Set up automatic transfers. Pay yourself first. Make it non-negotiable like any other bill.
Get it out of sight, out of mind.
Precisely. Create and actually stick to a budget. But think of it not as a restriction, but as a freedom plan. You're telling your money where you want it to go, guiding it towards your goals.
Empowering.
It really is. Actively look for ways to diversify your income streams. Don't rely solely on one paycheck if you can help it. Explore side hustles, passive income opportunities.
Multiple streams.
Yes. Consciously choose to live below your means. This isn't about deprivation. It's about creating a surplus margin that you can then direct towards saving and investing for your future.
Building the gap.
Building the gap. Invest regularly, even if it's small amounts to start. Get started early to leverage the incredible power of compounding interest over time. Consistency beats timing. And finally, practice generosity. Give even small amounts regularly. It reinforces that belief in abundance and often brings a surprising sense of fulfillment in having more than enough.
And finally, sometimes we need help. Don't hesitate to seek professional guidance. Right?
Absolutely critical advice. Consider hiring a fiduciary financial advisor, someone legally obligated to act in your best interest for objective advice, comprehensive planning, and accountability. And if you feel like there are really deep-seated emotional or psychological blocks around money, maybe stemming from childhood or past experiences, consider working with a coach or therapist who specializes in financial psychology or money issues. They can help address those core wounds. The truly amazing thing is that consistent application of even just a few of these tools, you don't have to do everything at once, can dramatically shift your perspective and really propel you towards greater financial well-being and peace of mind. It's a journey, absolutely, not a destination, and every consistent step forward is powerful progress.
Now, as you embark on this journey, this transformation of your financial mindset, it's almost inevitable that you're going to encounter obstacles.
Right.
Shifting deeply ingrained beliefs and habits, it's not easy. But recognizing these challenges ahead of time is really the first step to overcoming them. What are some of the most common pitfalls listeners might face?
Yeah, that's important to anticipate. One of the biggest is just natural resistance to change. Our brains are wired for efficiency. They prefer familiar patterns, even if those patterns aren't serving us well.
The comfort zone trap.
Exactly. There's also often a significant fear of the unknown or fear of failure. What if I try this investing thing and lose money? That fear can be paralyzing. Social pressure and comparison are huge hurdles today. It's incredibly hard to stick to living below your means when social media feeds are full of everyone else seemingly spending lavishly.
Keeping up with the digital Joneses.
Right. The constant battle between instant gratification, wanting that thing now, and delayed gratification, saving or investing for a bigger future reward, that's a tough one for our brains. And perhaps the most insidious is unconscious self-sabotage. Those old limiting beliefs popping up and subtly undermining the progress you've consciously worked so hard for.
Okay, so overcoming these deeply ingrained patterns, these obstacles, sounds tough, but you mentioned earlier it really starts with self-compassion. What does that actually look like in practice when someone inevitably slips up, maybe overspends or misses a savings goal?
That's key. Self-compassion means treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you'd offer a good friend in the same situation.
Not beating yourself up.
Exactly. So if you miss a savings goal, instead of launching into harsh self-criticism, I'm useless with money, you acknowledge the setback non-judgmentally. You try to understand what triggered its stress, FOMO, and then you gently guide yourself back on track for the next opportunity, rather than letting one slip up derail your entire effort. Learn from it. Don't punish yourself for it.
Okay, learn and move on.
Precisely. Beyond that, keep challenging those limiting beliefs relentlessly. Question their validity. Where do they come from? Are they actually true? And actively replace them with empowering ones. Focus on small wins. Celebrate every bit of progress, no matter how minor it seems. That builds momentum and confidence.
Build moments?
Yeah. Seek support and accountability. Share your goals with a trusted friend, partner, or consider a coach or accountability group. Knowing someone else is aware can be hugely motivating.
Don't go it alone.
Definitely not. Continue to educate yourself continually. Knowledge genuinely reduces fear and uncertainty. And always, always remember your why. Connect back to the deeper reasons behind your financial goals. Freedom, security, helping family, making an impact. That deeper purpose fuels perseverance when things inevitably get tough.
So in conclusion then, it seems your financial mindset is arguably the most critical asset you possess. Far more than just the money itself. It's about how you perceive money, how you manage it, how you allow it to flow, or maybe block it in your life.
Well said.
By consciously choosing to cultivate an abundance mindset, by really understanding its core principles, and by diligently applying the practical tools and remedies we've discussed today, you genuinely possess the power to transform not just your bank account, but potentially your entire life experience.
It's a profound shift.
It really sounds like it. It's clearly a journey, a process of continuous growth, not a final destination. But it's a journey that promises profound rewards, greater financial freedom, significantly reduced stress, and the capacity to create a life of true holistic abundance. So the invitation is there. Take that first step today, one thought, one small action at a time. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank you.
This deep dive is brought to you by Shares24x7.com Learning Community, your free go-to resource for empowering financial knowledge.